Well, when you were in the process of, how do you know when it's time to let it go? How do you know when the book has said you're done? How do you know?
Well, you just know. I mean, you told the story and that's it. I don't. I think it's just part of the whole enterprise. The same way you know, the same thing that tells you what to write tells you when to stop writing it.
It does.
I think so. Yeah. I was going to say a while ago about we were talking about this thing about the sense of taking dictation. When Henry Miller was working on his second book in Paris after he'd published Tropic of Cancer, he said he would get up every morning and would go in and sit down at the typewriter and poise his hands over the key, and he would call out in French, "J'écoute," I'm listening, and and here it would come, and he'd say, "Slow down," you know.
Wow.
He said you couldn't even go to the bathroom.
Wow.
And he wrote an entire book like that. That was just all dictated, every word of it.
Do you do some form of that, really?
Some form, yeah. Because,
Don't let your scientist friends know.
well, they know about the unconscious, and even if the unconscious is always with us. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm very busy talking, and I'm watching you to see what your reactions are, and I'm saying these words, but somewhere in my head, someone's making up the next thing I'm going to say, which I don't even know what it is yet.
Yeah.
But you can't do two things at the same time.
Yeah.
And it may be that the subconscious is really a committee, and they may have meetings and say, "What do you think we should tell him? Should we tell him that? No, he's not ready for that." Well, it's a way of putting things, but it's very, sometimes the sense of the subconscious. The sense of the subconscious and its role in your life is just something you can't ignore.
No, you can't.
In science, a lot of times, the people work on problems and just hit a wall and can't solve them, and they'll be the most famous one be solved in dreams. The most famous one is Kekulé's benzene ring. He couldn't figure out what benzene looked like. He couldn't figure out the shape of the molecules and everything, and he fell asleep in front of his fire, and he dreamt of the hoop snake, the Ouroboros, the snake with its tail in its mouth. And when he woke up, he realized, oh, it's a ring.
Well, that raises him in his dream.
Yeah.
Came to the dream, and the dream's the subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, but that raises the question as to why, if your subconscious has solved this problem and is ready to tell you, why wouldn't it just say, "Hey, Kekule, it's a ring"?
Yeah. Why wouldn't it do it that way?
We don't know, but it may have to do.
It's that brain thing again.
It may have to do with the subconscious being older than language, and maybe it's more comfortable creating little dramas and telling you things. But it has to understand language.
I love that thought.
Yeah.
I love the thought of that. The subconscious being older than language. I hadn't thought of it that way before.
Yeah. So maybe, language is pretty. We have a linguistic program here at SFI. We meet occasionally and have linguists from all over the world. A lot of them are from Russia. But language is probably no more than about 70,000 years old. Well, compared to the 3 or 4 million years that we've been here, that's very recent. But it understands language because it understands the problems that you're working on, and then when you're sleeping, it will work on them for you.
And that's why the rings came when he went to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will be quite specific. There was some years ago a mathematician at MIT, and he was working on a problem that was really very important to him. It was a major problem, and he just could not get it. And he absolutely had hit a wall. And his friends were worried about him. His wife was worried about him. He was very depressed. And then one night he went to sleep, and he dreamt he was having dinner with John Nash.
With John Nash?
Yeah, and everybody knows John Nash because there was a film made about him, A Beautiful Mind. And so they're chatting, and in the course of this conversation, he explained the problem to Nash. And Nash said, I think I see something. Let me borrow your pencil. And he wrote some equations on the napkin and explained what he'd done, and then the guy woke up. And he turned on the lamp, and he had his little pad by the table there, And he scribbled down the equations and scribbled down a couple of notes to himself and went back to sleep. Well, the next morning he woke up and the first thing he thought was, God, what a strange dream. I wonder what kind of gibberish I've written on my little pad. And when he looked on the pad, here was this really elegant solution to the problem.
Whoa.
So he wrote up the paper and he cited Nash's co-author.